We're waiting for a couple more guys to get in. It's just 6 o'clock. I want to welcome you guys who are here to Tecmotion's first ever YouTube Live. With me here tonight is Cam Howell. He's a hardcore Foxbody Mustang guy. He comes from a hardcore Ford family. You know, the kind of people that are driving around in supercharged expeditions, stuff like that, just for giggles.
Right.
Cam has an incredible Foxbody, which hopefully in the spring we're going to get filmed and get on the channel for you to see. It's got a Cleveland stroker in it, or maybe you want to just give a quick rundown on what your car's all about, Cam.
Yeah, I guess I picked it up when I was around 19 years old off of a local guy here, and he definitely gave me a big hand on getting started on it because it was like a stripped out ex-drag car, bare shell, you know, heap sitting in his backyard. And I basically had to talk myself into it that, you know, I could get all the parts that I wanted to, and I told myself I was getting a great deal. But 6 years later, I've got the built Cleveland in it. That was a big chunk of change, and a T56 Magnum, and a full Maximum Motorsports grip box. So that's kind of the meat and potatoes of the thing. And over the years, I've just slowly got it to a state where I can more or less comfortably street drive the thing. And then I guess I've got some dreams of going to the road course with it and do a little bit of drag racing too. But mostly it's built to hurt feelings of you know, guys in their BMWs and Porsches and stuff like that.
It has a radio, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got I mean, it's got a stereo in it, but that's weight that can be taken out. Or I tell myself that you know, the subwoofer in the back adds me a little bit of traction if I'm on the street with street tires on it. And
yeah, and it's got a unobtainium welding exhaust on it too, right?
yeah, and I guess how I ended up with that is the fact that it has that Cleveland swap in it, and obviously there's no bolt-in type exhaust, and I needed a full 3-inch exhaust for it. And then the thought comes into your head, well, if I actually want to drive this thing around on the street and not just accumulate tickets all the time, I should probably make it so it could be a little bit quieter. So I ended up getting some Varex mufflers for the thing. And I guess if you're not listening to you know, the way the Cam makes it act, it kind of sounds as loud or even maybe quieter than your typical Foxbody that you'll see out there. So every time I go past a cop, I shut the mufflers up and make it go quiet mode, and it hasn't failed me yet. So
when we had it on the dyno, I almost couldn't believe how much power those Varex mufflers scrubbed off. And I don't remember off the top of my head, but they were killers. With the mufflers closed up, they consumed they consumed all kinds of power. Like, I don't know what it was, like 80 horsepower or something ridiculous like that,
yeah,
wasn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, the muffler is a straight through 3-inch when you have them open, but when you shut it, it's like maybe like a 1.5-inch orifice within each muffler. So it's kind of like I had a dual 1.5-inch exhaust on the thing when we shut the mufflers. So
I've seen a lot of these cars where, you know, you run open headers or you run mufflers and it doesn't make hardly any power difference. Mm-hmm. My little coupe here, for example, first time we took it out to Mega Ford Weekend, I pulled the exhaust off, but the main thing I got for that was a weight saving. It actually made almost nothing extra on the dyno. And you know, it had in those days it had Flowmaster 50 series mufflers like you put on an RV, 3.5-inch dual 3.5-inch with a Dr. Gas X pipe, and then it had dumps, and that exhaust from the headers back was heavy, like 50 or 60 pounds or something like that. It was, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was heavy. And anyway, I took it off, go to Megaford weekend. The car wasn't any quicker. It was just a lot louder, and I never did it again. But I've seen some GM product with the Varex mufflers on there, and they were really scrubbed power off with the mufflers closed up. And your Foxbody was the biggest surprise to me because it was, yeah, it really scrubbed power off. Question on the channel here is, do you think your car will take on a certain Mach 1? I'm not quite sure which Mach 1 this guy's referring to, but he is a local guy. Maybe he's asking about your dad's car.
If he's asking about that one, I would say absolutely, as soon as he gets the damn thing driving around. So.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about this Mach 1 your dad has, which is amongst a whole fleet of Mustangs in your clan?
Yeah. I mean, I guess growing up, that was probably the main car that got me into Mustangs. Apart from my dad had an 89 LX 5-liter as well. But he got that 69 Mach 1 when I was about 7 years old. And we worked on it off and on when I was younger, and you know, had a dream that after he blew it up that we were going to do like a partial rebuild on the thing. And once we got it apart, we kind of realized, yeah, this thing is going to have bits of shrapnel in it and stuff. And then he it's a long story that I won't tell, but it took a real long time to get the motor built that's in it now, mainly because he had it built by a guy down in California who supposedly had all sorts of illnesses and issues, which I don't doubt, but it was like a crazy amount of time that basically his money was being held hostage.
It was years, right?
Yeah, like at least 6 years or something like that.
Oh my God.
From, you know, the initial payment to actually getting the motor. But it so far seems pretty good, and it seems to be what he paid for. So that's like a 440 cubic inch Dart Sportsman block, and he's got AFR 220 Renegade heads on it, and backed by a TKO 600 transmission. And then he's also got a TCI 3-link, so a torque arm and panhard bar in the back. And recently we put some big Willwood brakes on it, and just picking away at it over time. And
runs Holley HP and a dual Phantom pump setup, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's definitely a handful. Like I think like gross horsepower, it made over 700 without accessories on it. So it's got plenty on tap, and it's set up to run nitrous as well, which is probably realistically never going to be needed unless you know, we put a big set of slicks on it and get serious. But we'll probably build a different car to do something like that in anyway. But
because of a Galaxy too, right?
We have a 66 Fairlane.
Oh, Fairlane, yeah.
And that's the car that my Cleveland came out of. So when I was in high school, that car was there, and my uncle and dad built that car, I guess more or less in the 80s. And originally I was gonna work on that one, and it just needed floor pans and lots of little nitpicky stuff. And at that time I was not confident with, you know, a welder, let alone a grinder, really. So I didn't really see myself doing the floor pans and stuff, and to me it just looked like a big investment to get it going. And since I built my Fox, I realized that car was probably a lot more work to get on the road and to enjoy it. So that one's still sitting there, and you know, we always debate whether we're going to stick a 460 in it or a small block or whatever, but you need the time and money before you can decide what kind of motor you're going to stick in the thing. So
well, you're only in your 20s, right?
Yep.
That's one thing I always admired about you, Cam. I mean, there's a lot of young guys out there who don't care about cars. So I'm always happy when I see a young guy like this who's hardcore, like seriously hardcore. Question on the channel is, what track do you think you want to run your Foxbody on?
Originally, I mean, when I started building the thing, I had some friends that were going to Castrol for like track junkie, track rental events and stuff like that. So that's kind of what it was aimed towards, and then be able to do some street driving. But we'll see now that there's a couple tracks popping up around here, like the one near Carstairs and Drumheller and stuff. So if it's affordable enough for me to take it out there, I'll probably do that. And I've been a lot more open-minded to doing like some autocross and stuff like that with the car too.
Sure. Someone asks here, Down East Tackle says he's impressed with the Mustang that we have. We're sitting right in front of it here. They're talking about my Tecmotion Coupe. I think lots of guys signed on to get a look at the car when Cletus there bought a Lenco for his. Of course, I've had a Lenco in this car for 14 years, something like that. I think I was one of the first guys with a Foxbody to get a Lenco working in it. And even today, I don't think there's too many guys. It's not the easiest platform because Foxes are short. The wheelbase on a Foxbody is, I think, Foxbody Mustangs, like 100.5 inches. It's like a half an inch from being an altered. And I don't remember how long the drive shaft in this car is. It's a 4-speed, so it's 3 cases, but it's short. And it seemed to me that if we had put a 5-speed Lenco in it with another case, it seemed to me we might have been down to something like a 10-inch long drive shaft. And the one Cletus is planning to build looks like he has a Bruno drive in front of it too. So that's with a torque converter setup, and that also adds additional length. This car uses a clutch, and it uses a single disc slipper style clutch, McLeod soft lock. And so you run it, launch it just like you would with a regular clutch car, but then once you got it going, you just keep the right foot planted and start jerking levers when the shift light comes on. So I know lots of you guys watched the recently remastered 9-second in-car runs from the 2009 Mega Ford weekend. There is a playlist of this Tecmotion Coupe in action on the channel, and if you're interested in the car, I encourage you to take a look at that. There are some older videos on the playlist that have a little better look at the shifting action from inside the car as well as outside, so you can see what it looks like going down track. Question here is, are you thinking you're going to go in Miles of Mayhem with your car? Would you be up for a challenge like that?
Got to spend a little more money on it first, I would think, just to get all the bugs worked out of it. But I'm kind of on the cusp of having a real career now, so I just kind of put those thoughts to the side and focus on my school and my work at the moment. But I'd love to get the thing out, and I guess the first thing that I would probably do before trying to get into some event like that is it still is carbureted, and I'd like to put an EFI system on it someday, and then I would be a lot more comfortable doing, you know, some road trips on the highway, and mainly so I've got some diagnostics and, you know, maybe drive it through the mountains and not have to worry about getting under the hood to tweak it just to get through a mountain pass or something, because it's a very high compression build, and I actually run it on 94 octane with a race gas additive in it, so it bumps it up to 98 octane. So if I had EFI on it, then I could tune the timing curve and potentially knock it back down to 94 octane. And then, you know, I won't have to carry an entire case of race gas additive around in the in the
I know
back of the thing.
I did some work on, like your dynamic compression on that motor, and I felt like you're sort of just over the edge of where it's going to be safe to run 94. So who knows? Maybe you would get it in a spot you could work with
Yeah, for
with
sure
fuel
with a
injection.
cam
Maybe.
swap, if I couldn't do it with just the EFI alone.
I wish you built it 11.5 to 1. But anyway. Okay, I got a couple questions here. For a V3 Vortec putting out about 10 pounds, do I really need an intercooler? I mean, most of these Vortec systems are not intercooled. I think the way Vortec does it is they have a like an ice box, a liquid intercooler system. And if I remember right, that liquid intercooler system costs about as much as the whole supercharger kit does. So it's a lot, and guys don't use it very much. Plus, I think you got to relocate the battery. I think it goes where the battery box is. You do have to understand that when you run a non-intercooled centrifugal like that, you can get some pretty hot air charge temperatures, like 200 Fahrenheit, that kind of temperature. And so you combine this with a hot day, you got to be really conservative with your timing setup, and you got to make sure that you've got good fuel. But tons of guys get away with like a V3 Vortec with 10 pounds, non-intercooled. You just got to be conservative at the way you set it up, and you got to make sure you got good fuel. You start pushing too hard, you start to get into trouble. Now, those are systems, I'm not a big fan of methanol, water-meth. The truth is nobody runs methanol, they run windshield washer fluid. And here's the thing, those systems were invented during the war for power boost, emergency power boost if you were about to get shot down. And if you see any of those pilots talking about using those water injection systems, you'll see them say, by the time they pull in the handle for that, they no longer care about the airplane. They're only trying to save their skin. They pulled the handle and they would use it for just a few seconds, just long enough to get out of trouble, because still got to try and get home, right? And it's hard. It's hard on motors. You put water in the combustion chamber, it can cause pitting problems. And if you had gone to a gas station and bought a tank of fuel and 7% of it was water, you'd be hopping mad. You'd be suing guys or whatever. But guys are prepared to put that in willingly with water-meth systems. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. However, there is a place where these systems can work, and the two places that I think they do work is for non-intercooled centrifugal superchargers and for turbo systems. And the way you do it with a turbo system is you run on like a street setting all the time, and then you have a kill setting on your boost controller. You keep the timing in, and when you switch it up to the high boost setting, you turn on the methanol and compensate for it that way. And with turbo systems, like most of the time you just drive around without the methanol on, and with the like street boost setting, and that works fine. And so you're only using it when you really need to.
Yeah.
With a non-intercooled centrifugal, you have it on all the time. And then when you tune these cars, you have two choices. You can either choose to set it up to really take advantage of the water methanol, in which case, when something goes wrong with it, like it runs out, which happens quite a bit, like it sprays a lot of that stuff, runs out, suddenly you got an engine meltdown. Or you set it up for safety, in which case you don't get a whole lot more power, but with a non-intercooled supercharger, you are running it all the time, or all the time you're in boost. So this business of putting water in there that can cause pitting and so on is a bigger problem. Anyway, lots and lots of guys run 10-pound Vortex. I don't think you have any issue with that. Another guy here says that Astro Performance built his T5 to handle 800 horsepower. What do you think about that?
Cletuses?
No, a guy on the channel here says that Astro Performance built him a T5 and it's rated for 800 horsepower. You think that's possible?
I mean, a T5 is a pretty lightweight transmission, and the case is a big part of that strength. So, I mean, you compare the weight of a T56 to a T5, you know, all that weight isn't added just in an extra overdrive gear. You know, it's in the case, and I'd like to see what those guys have to say about it. You know, what kind of tech they put into the materials and stuff.
I'm personally a little bit skeptical that it'll really handle 800 horsepower. And then sometimes guys are talking about, you know, gross horsepower, engine stand horsepower, and that is quite an exaggerated number compared to an SAE net number, which is the kind of number that a manufacturer will rate, or most dyno shops will give you as a wheel number.
And I mean, what weight of vehicle is that rating for? I mean, if you stick that in a 4,000 pound vehicle, obviously.
Yeah, totally.
If
your vehicle's a lot lighter, like, I mean, Foxbodies, I've seen, in fact, I was sworn to secrecy, but it's almost 20 years ago, I saw one of these cars that for all intents and purposes looked like a stalker, but it weighed 2,200 pounds. So they can be made to weigh a small amount, and then you can handle more power in a light car with a transmission like a T5. And in fairness to the T5, like, it's a bad reputation, but I know one guy went 1140 with a T5 and never broke it. I went 1197, I think, with a T5, never broke it. And the thing that really breaks T5s is power shifting.
Yeah.
Another thing that breaks them, and I know one of the guys who's watching right now probably knows the guys I'm talking about, but we used to have a track here in Calgary with a good road course, Race City Speedway, and there was a place there where you need to be on the brakes, and there was kind of a little ripple in the racing surface. And what happened to these guys a couple times is they're in top gear, they're in fifth gear, they hit the brakes, the car lifts off, and because they got huge brakes on these cars, these are Foxbody Coupes, we lock the wheels up, and then it touches back down with the wheels locked up, and bam, bust that fifth gear cluster, just like that. And you know, there's a magnet in the case, looks like a Christmas tree when it breaks like that. So it that kind of thing can break a T5 as well. And I know one of these brothers went to a TKO in the car, and he didn't like it because it weighs quite a bit more. And I mean like 20 pounds more or something like that. A TKO weighs over a T5. And so they did I think a G-Force version for this road race car and put a T5 back in it, and won Solo Sprint Unlimited Championship with the car here in Calgary against all the guys with, you know, supercharged Corvettes and 911 turbos and stuff like that. So that's with the Fox Coupe. So, and those two brothers did it 2 years in a row. One of them won 1 year and one of them won the other year. I set both those cars up. They were Stroker 351 cars. Okay, here's a question. Any feedback on a supercharged 427 for an 89 Foxbody? Yeah, better strengthen the car up. I guess it depends on what you want to do with it. If you're going to drag race the car, that'll be a killer for sure. If you're going to road race the car, my personal opinion is you're better off to run naturally aspirated. You have less heat problems. There's less stuff to go wrong. It doesn't throw belts. That kind of thing. Are we talking
like a 427 Windsor base motor or a big block?
It doesn't say here, but I would guess that he's talking a Windsor Stroker 427. I think there may even be kits to get a production 351W block to a 427, but usually these are bigger bore blocks, like they're 4130 or something like that. Yeah, it'll be a killer. I mean, I've set up some cars like that over the years, and they make big power, and the car's light. If you do the right work on the whole rest of the car, suspension, all that stuff, and you're going to drag race the car, yeah, it'll be a killer.
It'll be a handful.
Yeah, it'll be a handful too, for sure. And when you're getting into stuff like that, don't scrimp on the safety gear. You know, make sure you got a blow-proof bell housing. That clutch is dangerous if it blows up on you. Cuts off your feet. I mean, Don Garlett's one of my heroes growing up, I guess, cut off his part of one foot in a clutch explosion, and that's one of the reasons why he worked so hard to get a rear engine dragster to actually be controllable, because he got tired of being injured, I guess. Right. So nobody likes that. I mean, drag racing, auto motorsports, amateur motorsports, it's supposed to be fun. This guy says this car has dual torque storm superchargers. Now, I'm not familiar with that supercharger. Do you know what?
I don't know much about them, but I've definitely heard of them, and it sounds pretty badass. Probably looks cool under the hood.
Yeah, probably looks cool, for sure. Terminator X, that's a good choice, for sure. Multi-port EFI. Holley dual sync distributor and an MSD box. Yeah, I mean, that's all good stuff, probably all necessary stuff. I assume that we're talking a Terminator X system with an 8-injector rail setup, because there are throttle body injected versions of that system out there. But I was talking to a guy the other day. He's a Chevy guy, but talking about putting like a Terminator X throttle body injection setup on a turbo S10, and I think guys run into trouble with trying to seal up a lot of boost at a like a carburetor style fuel hat. So yeah, he does. He says it's a Windsor. What's a good standalone EFI system if someone wanted to convert a carburetor Foxbody? Well, Holley Terminator X is one of them, for sure. Sniper, like if you have a carb car with a carb manifold, Sniper is an inexpensive system that mostly works. I got one here right now that I am fighting with, and it seems like it has trouble with staying in closed loop all the time. I don't know if something is wrong with the system. Usually these kind of things you can see, like a wiring interference, RF interference problem, and you'll see it when you data log them. You'll see things like the throttle position signal jumping around, or you'll see a spiky RPM signal, and that's usually solved with changing the wire routing. Fixed 70 Nova for a guy here last year, where he routed all the wiring together to try and make it look prettier, like the way I originally had it. And by doing that, he routed all of this control wiring together with the ignition wiring, and you couldn't set the timing, you couldn't do anything because the RPM signal was jumping all over the place. And when you zoom up on that log on that, what you'll see, and what I saw in that case was, this sample is 800 RPM, and the very next sample is like 8,000 RPM, and then the sample after that is 800 again. So, and that, when you see that kind of noise spike, the Sniper just won't stay in closed loop. You can't set timing, it makes a real mess. But the car that I got here, 67 Mustang, it's got a 347 in it, it's full resto mod car, and it kind of started out as just a fuel injection conversion and seemed like it worked okay, but it does seem like it has a trouble with staying in closed loop, and I've been tearing my hair out over it. Holley have been very unhelpful. about it. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but that's the truth. They just haven't been that helpful. They assume that I got something wrong. But I mean, I sent them all data logs, and I'm pretty familiar with sorting these out. So I don't know. As a general rule, though, I think Sniper is not a bad choice. You got to be careful how you have it wired, and it's a fairly inexpensive way to get going. If you step up to Terminator X, even if you do a throttle body style setup, then one of the key things about that is the PCM is remote mounted. So you can put the PCM away from the distributor and ignition system, where on the Sniper, the PCM is right on the throttle body. So, you know, on a Ford, it's at the front on the throttle body. So on a Ford, you only have, I don't know, 5 inches or something to the distributor. And that can be a source of issues.
And apart from the distributor, I mean, all the electronics are bolted right to the motor. And I mean, I study like industrial electronics basically. And with that, you avoid at all costs having any sort of common grounds between signal wires and say something like a generator, i.e. an alternator. And you know, there could be all kinds of noise just going right through the motor, right through the grounds, right out of your alternator. And I know a guy who he told me that he doesn't like those setups because he's spent all kinds of hours trying to correct those types of issues. And he said that on certain cars it could be running perfectly with the hood up, and he could put the hood down and it starts acting up.
Oh yeah. A guy on here says that you know, with Sniper you can get a problem if the AE versus TPS or map rate of change blanking values are set too low. Yes, for sure. I've been watching those channels, and it doesn't look like it's the case with this particular car. And it's not just idle where it doesn't want to stay in closed loop. It seems like it flicks in and out even when you're driving the car. It has a quick 4 transmission controller in it, and that was done with a T onto the Sniper TPS sensor. Now, it wasn't a splice. I used a commercial tap. So you unplug the Sniper from the TPS, you plug that into the tap, and you plug the tap into the other end, and then you've got a wire that comes off that feeds the signal
Just
into
a
the
little
quick 4
sandwich.
transmission controller. Yeah, but it's all factory connectors, right? So there's no cutting. That way you can definitely put it back exactly the way it was. And there is some noise introduced by that. I talked to US Shift the other day, and they told me now if you want to do this with Sniper with a quick 4, they have a tap that's got a noise suppressor on it that supposedly reduces these kind of problems. Anyway, I've got all this stuff switched over. I got a secondary throttle position sensor in the car now for the transmission controller, and I've solved a bunch of other little issues with the car. It had a really noisy rear end in it. We took it apart. There's no preload on the pinion. It's a 9-inch. No preload on the pinion, no preload on the side gears, way too much backlash. The seals, outer axle seals were screwed and it was leaking, and the wheel bearings were bad. So we fixed all that. Car's probably ready to go back on the rollers and take a little drive, and we'll see if we're any better. I'm not a big fan of some of these systems like Easy EFI or what's that other really El Cheapo system that's out there? Anyway, there's another really cheap carburetor throttle body style bolt-on EFI system. And the problem with those systems is they have basically next to no user configurability. So if they don't work, they just don't work. Where at least with Sniper, it is laptop programmable. So most of the time you can get it to work fine with a laptop.
And I mean, I'm sure it's fair to say that you get what you pay for, and you know, do you need to go out and get the system that has a bunch
Phytech, that's the one.
Phytech,
Yeah.
You don't have to go out and get the one with all the extra, modular ability, like to put in your drive shaft speed and stuff like that. But I mean, there's lots of options out there for standalone ECUs, and lots of guys who've made them work quite well.
Well, I mean, a solution that I like on Foxbody Mustangs, or like a car like my Lincoln Mark 7 uses this solution. If it was already a fuel injected car, maybe you're going to switch from a speed density Mustang computer, or like the Lincoln was a speed density car. I like Megasquirt.
Megasquirt, yeah.
I use a Megasquirt 2 plug and play in the Mark 7. It's probably the least fuss if you have a good wiring harness. Now, if you got a terrible wiring harness, like a lot of Fox Mustangs have, it's going to be bad regardless. You're going to have to replace that. But if you got a good wiring harness, like this Lincoln, when I bought it, was so unmolested. It still had the tape on the spout connector. Like no one had ever even set the timing on it. So anyway, with a situation like that, you unplug the factory computer, you plug the Megasquirt in, and actually with the Lincoln, there's no messing around. There's only one wire you got to ground to give you your horn back, and you do lose the cruise control, because in the Lincoln it's cruise control is right on the PCM, but in the Mustang it isn't. The Mustang is separate cruise control, so
it's like a mechanical unit under the dash. So.
Well, there's a little electronic box, but it's a separate box where that's all integrated in the computer on the Lincoln.
Yeah.
So anyway, what's the difference? You can put in a Rostra aftermarket cruise control is probably the path of least resistance. If you've lost your cruise control. And Megasquirt's inexpensive. I think it's like $8.79 US or something like that. Something like that. And like I said, it's a straightforward install. It's user programmable. And it gives you some of the features that you might want to add on, like fan control, for instance. Will Coyote heads bolt onto a Voodoo short block? And also, will it bolt up to the transmission?
Should be the same, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the bolt pattern is the same. Now, I haven't done it, so I don't want to say this is the gospel, but I'm pretty sure that they should bolt up. And I'm almost 100% sure that the transmission bolt pattern is the same. So, yeah, probably. Yeah, for sure. I have a factory four-lug brake setup. My car's a street car only. Are the 5-lug and 4-wheel disc brake options worth it, or just get some Hawk pads? Yeah, okay. Hawk HP or Hawk HP Plus pads are going to make an incredible difference in the stopping power of the car. This, I mean, we're sitting here looking at it. I know you guys can't see it on screen, but this little Fox Coupe of mine has, it has factory brakes on the front and back. In fact, it's got factory drums on the back. It's a 5-lug conversion, so it has the Lincoln rotors on the front, and it's got the Ranger drums on the back, and then it's got like strange 33 spline spool and all that in the back, but it uses like Ranger drums, and the backing plates were machined to accept the big bearing weld-on 9-inch style housing ends on the 8.8. Anyway, so it's got crappy drums on the back, and I used to run this car at Lethbridge Street Machine Weekend. In fact, I was the winningest driver in a decade down there. They'd put another guy's picture on the cover of the paper and have to give me the trophy. I keep some pictures on my phone of like some sort of grudging looking trophy award ceremonies. Anyway, whatever. It was a crazy little event, 100-foot dash, So it sounds like a joke, but they put like 5,000 fans in the grandstand. It's done in front of the grandstand left bridge. It's a concrete pad. It launches just like a drag strip. Really, the setup you would run there would be the exact same setup you'd run at any like NHRA drag strip, like Medicine Hat, for instance, or Castrol in Edmonton, or what do they call it now? Rad Torque Raceway, they call that place. Anyway, but the shutdown was incredibly short, and there was concrete everywhere, and steel panels, and in fact there was even a gazebo that was in the way you could run into, and I almost hit the gazebo there one year, and the car got to be kind of unbelievable. Like in 100 feet it'd be doing 65 miles an hour, and you'd have to pull it in a second before you went across 100 feet. So you'd pull it in a second at like 60, 70 feet out, something like that. And when you pulled into second, the car would want to kick a little bit on you sideways. And so you could get it just a little out of shape. And if you get a car like this out of shape, you can't just jam the brakes on. So you've got to get it straightened out first before you hit the brakes. And some of these guys are like, oh, Matthew, you're going to crash it. Street Machine weekend. And he might have been right. So anyway, I put Hawk HP Plus on just the front on the car. And I'm telling you, that car stops 40 or 50% better. And it's got skinnies on the front. So frankly, the brakes on the front now are enough that you could lock it up. Like you sort of barely got enough tire to hang on to it. But that's just factory brakes. So now, the brakes and going to 5-lug are really two separate things. You can do this the old school way, like put Lincoln rotors on the front, and then you keep the factory brakes, and then you just put better pads on. If you do SN95 spindles and stuff, you end up with better brakes anyway, but you could still run Hawk HP Plus. I think there's a lot of money gets spent on brakes on these cars for not a lot of reason, and I always encourage guys, try some good pads, street type pads. Don't put like full race pads on because they only work if they're hot. If they're warm. But put some serious street pads on. It's going to cost like $200, and if it's not enough, then move on to better brakes. But I mean, you got $200 spent, not $4,000 or $5,000 you can spend on brakes before you know what happened. And it's just not necessary.
It's almost easier to go out and get like a 95 Mustang GT rear end and put the whole rear end in than to do the conversion on the Foxbody 8.8. Especially cost-wise, if you can find one that's not totally beaten to death.
Yeah.
All the brackets and stuff really nickel and dime you.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I mean, this car is a drag car, and so you're doing burnouts and stuff all the time. What do you care about the rear brakes? So I left them drums. The rear brakes are probably not even very, very good.
Yeah.
But now on my street rod, which I built to do a little road racing with, we put good brakes on that. It's got like Bear SS4 in the back, and but it's just got Ford Cobra, SVT Cobra, like Terminator brakes up front, and then it's got the Bear pads on it all the way around. And when we set up the brake bias, I ended up with it biased almost entirely towards the front. Those brakes are probably, I should have a little bigger brakes on the front or a little smaller on the back, but it was okay. I got it set so that I get the wheel lockup just right. And when you're setting up your wheel lockup, I think the right way to do it is set it so that you try and get them set so that they lock together, or if you're going to get a staged lockup at all, that the rear should lock just ahead of the front, because if you get a rear lock up, you're going to get some feedback and probably not lose control of the car, where if you get a front lock up, suddenly you got no steering. So do I want to sell my coupe? No. I get asked this quite a bit. I know the car looks like it's doing nothing, and it kind of is, but I mean, I've like 5,000 hours of work in this car, and I won a pile of drag races with it. It's really a part of me. And if all this car does is sit in my showroom at the shop here, and I look at it every day, that's okay. It doesn't really owe me anything going forward. So it's not really for sale.
There's lots of parts on it for you to try out on other cars when you're building stuff. And
Yeah. Lately, I used it for a test mule for the Foxbody vent gauge pods, for instance. One of the local guys says he knows where there's a 8.8 rear axle assembly of a 96 Explorer. These guys they bought this Exploder with a bad transmission, and they robbed the motor out of it to stick in I don't know what year it is, it's a 4i, so 84 or something Fox body, and they got the rear end, I guess.
Yep.
How can I check what heads I have on this motor? It was a dad's car, and I know he got some at Crate Motor, but I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, when it comes to identifying parts on these cars, it can be a real expedition, like a fishing trip. Most of these Fox bodies are heavily molested. They have an incredible assortment of stuff on them. Lots of times there's no paperwork packet with them. But when it comes to cylinder heads, number one thing is to try and figure out whether they're aluminum or iron. Okay, so that's really easy to see. I mean, you can see it with your little eye, or in the worst case, put a magnet on the head. If magnet sticks, obviously it's iron. Now, if they're aluminum heads, which most of the aftermarket heads are, there's usually a part number or a manufacturer name on the face of the head. So that would be the accessory face, where the accessories are bolted up on the front and on the back. And usually when I'm looking at one of these cars, I'm trying to identify it, I get it up in the air, and then I look at the back of the head from underneath, and usually you can read what kind of heads it is, if they're trick flow heads, or if they're Edelbrock heads, or if they're AFR heads, or whatever. All of those style of heads will have a number and the manufacturer name right on that face, either the rear face or the front face. It's on both. So that's the best approach to trying to figure it out. Now, if you have some kind of off-brand or Chinese type heads, it can be a little bit harder, and some of them are not made anymore. I had a car in here in the summer, which was kind of a rescue car, and I actually shot a bunch of video on it, and I have never processed it. I kind of did a video sequence of looking at the hodgepodge of stuff that was on the car, because it looked like it had been built from a Kijiji or Craigslist parts bin, or maybe somebody's own personal parts bin. Maybe I should edit that video together. And the idea was, I have a popular video that talks about, what a stock Fox body really looks like. But this car was more like the kind of car you're going to face. And it had some of these Chinese heads. They were some of the first of the Chinese heads that came into North America, and they've been discontinued for like a dozen years.
Probably because of a lawsuit.
Yeah, I don't know. I know those heads had a little bit of trouble with the rocker arm geometry. These ones had adjustable guide plates, and the car had a tick. They had a whole bunch of issues wrong with it, and I think I got a good setup on the car finally, but one of the guide plates wasn't adjusted right, and the rocker arm was off the valve tip, not right off of it, but it wasn't lined up right. So that was just one of a bunch of things that were potential issues with it. So when it comes to the heads, yeah, get a look from behind, from underneath the car, or if it's a car with stripped down accessories, sometimes you can just see it from the front. But usually these cars have a full accessory package on them, and so that covers all the writing on the front of the head. Sometimes you've got to open take the valve cover off. This is easier said than done on a EFI Mustang, but sometimes you got to take valve cover off, and there'll be stuff written inside the head. And sometimes you'll find that there is serial numbers or product numbers or whatever on the header side of the cylinder head. So have a look there as well. Okay. I don't know. Do you want to maybe take a little look at this Lenco in this car? I think a lot of guys logged into the channel in order to see what a Lenco was all about. This car, is running with a Lenco and has been for years. So if you guys are interested in that, maybe I'll get Cam to kind of follow me with the camera here, and we'll just go over the transmission a little bit.
For sure.
All right. Oh, we're tethered together, so. In fact, maybe what I'll do is I'll untether you, Cam, for this. Okay. All right. I don't know if the best way to do this is from this side, or do you think you'd be able to get in the other side there?
Skinny enough.
It's a little bit tight in the shop. I got the Lincoln in here as well as the Mustang, sort of side by side. But this is a 4-speed Lenco. The 3 silver levers handle individual cases, and you can think about this transmission as being a stack of 2-speed power glides. So here, I might even turn on this light here. There we go. You can think of it as being like a stack of 2-speed power glides. So there are 3, in this particular case, a 4-speed, it's got 3 cases. Each one of these levers handles an individual case, and those cases are 2-speed cases. So they start out in underdrive, and then when you jerk the lever, it pulls them up into direct. Now, when you go through all 3 levers, you've pulled it up into direct in all the cases, and then you have the car in direct drive. There's no overdrive in this setup. And this little short lever here is used, it's in the neutral position there. If you push it forward, it's in the reverse position. If you pull it back, it's in the forward position. So this allows you to change between forward and reverse. Technically, you have 4 speeds in reverse, same as you have in forward. Now, the individual cases are controlled with these little shift towers here, and the shift aggressiveness for each case can be adjusted. The way you do that is you use a scale, and you can adjust it with these adjusters here, and you use a scale to pull on it, and depends on how much force it takes to shift it using the scale. That's your measurement of how aggressive the shift on that case is going to be. So, if you are setting the car up and it turns out that it's always wanting to kick sideways on you in one gear or on one shift, you can soften the shift on just that case. Now, this car uses a a soft lock, which is a slipper style clutch, a single disc slipper style clutch. So that's the same idea as a top fuel car, but a top fuel car is a multi-disc clutch and then it doesn't have a transmission. In this case, you have a transmission and a single disc slipper. The idea with that is when you launch the car, that clutch slips a certain amount and then tightens up. And you can adjust how much it slips in order to adjust your launch hit so that you're right on the edge of traction. And what you find is if you're blowing the car off, if you're blowing the tires off, you got to soften it up and allow a little bit more slip, or reduce your launch RPM, for instance. And if you're bogging the car, then you've got to soften up that that clutch a little bit. Now, the car has data acquisition in it, and with this, we can actually monitor the clutch slip. One of the things when you're setting one of these cars up is you want to, like, we launch it at about 6,200 RPM, and what you want to do is watch that when you launch it, that your RPM starts at 62 or whatever your launch two-step set is, and then just drives up into the power band. But if it has a pull down, it means you've got your clutch set too aggressively. So you've got to back that off a little bit. It should not pull down. Where with like a typical clutch car, when you launch it, suppose like my street rod, it has a McLeod RXT Street Twin in it. When you hit that, it comes out at like 6,000 or something, 6 or 62, but it pulls down maybe 1,000 RPM and then drives into it. Where with the soft lock, what you're looking for is for it to never pull down. If it pulls down, you got too aggressive of a clutch setting. There are a lot of voodoo in these clutches, and the truth is, almost no one will help you. You're on your own. So you got to have data acquisition, and you got to work at it, trial and error. To give you an idea of how on your own you really are with this car has every single component in the clutch system is from McLeod. It's got a McLeod 8660 bell housing. It's got their cable, quadrant, shift fork, adjustable throwout bearing, adjustable ball stud. It's got their flywheel. It's got their slipper disc, which is a sintered iron disc, and it's got their long style pressure plate. Absolutely every single part is McLeod. And I mean, when I set this car up, Red was still at McLeod. I called him to ask for a rough initial ball stud length. I mean, this should be a fairly straightforward question. And he said, I don't know. I mean, seriously, you have every single part from one company, and you couldn't even get help with like the ball stud length. So it's not for the faint of heart to set one of these up. You're kind of on your own. And if you try to do it without data acquisition, all you're going to do is roast these clutch discs. I mean, roast them. And it gets to be a pain in the butt to be replacing clutch discs all the time.
Not to mention going fast with the thing. Because anything little in your setup, like tire pressures, track conditions, the weight of the car, all of that, you know, if you've got a turbo car and you put a little more boost in it, then you're setting the clutch up again. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a little bit of a production setting the clutch up. There's eight adjusters around the perimeter, and you're not allowed to modify these bell housings in the NHRA, but there's no limit to the number of transmission bolt patterns you can have. So you've got a hole drilled through the back of the bell housing on the transmission mounting surface that lines up with the adjuster circle on the clutch. And you know, there's one every 60 degrees. So the way you adjust it is, usually it's best with two guys. You got one guy with a wrench on the balancer turning it over, and another guy under the car with an Allen key in there making adjustments. And you got to have those adjusters all set the same. So it's kind of a big production, and you got guys yelling out numbers and writing stuff down in a log book and whatnot. And I can tell you one year, actually it's Street Machine weekend, because the car wanted to kick out on me at that event, when I pulled it into second, I softened up the clutch a little bit to go down there, and it was running real straight, and my data log showed that it was running real straight. And so we made it into the final, and the way it worked there was top 5 cars went into the final. And so they got one final run, and then best run in the final was the champion. So I was kind of behind. There was a bunch of guys who had made a little bit quicker passes. And I mean, it's really close, so they weren't a lot quicker, but just a little bit. So because the car had been running straight and we had softened it up from our regular drag race setup to go down there, we decided to reset the clutch just to our standard tried and true drag race setup. So, but you know, all these guys are watching, and they knew I had data acquisition, and like I said, it's a big production. You're in there, one guy's under the car, you know, turning the adjuster, and another guy's yelling out numbers and writing stuff in a logbook. And all these guys were watching, and they all went and made changes to their car. Blind, foolish, blind changes. Every single one of those guys slowed down. I went quicker, and I was the quick street champion again. Anyway. Okay, hopefully that's a little bit of a look at the Lenco in an operational car. It's not that easy to get this in here and put all your console and everything back in the car. And it's not real easy to service the adjusters because you got all this console stuff in the way. So you've got to take a lot of stuff out in order to make individual gear changes. So once we got it roughly set up there, most of the changes we made were just to the automotive clutch. All right. Let's have a look at our... All right. I don't know, should we have a look under the hood of this pile? Yeah. I think probably if you guys watched the interview I gave Castle Customs on this car recently, you've already had a little bit of a look at it, but it uses a custom box style intake. Inside there are 8 individual runners. It's like a trumpet style intake. So you can see the components here. We call this the valley tray. This is our own design. It calls the valley tray, and it bolts in like the lower does on a regular Ford intake. Then it uses these phenolic runner blocks, and these runner blocks transition smoothly from the roughly rectangular port shape of the cylinder heads to the round shape of the trumpets, which the round shape of the trumpets is the most efficient way to induct air in. And they are phenolic, so they absolutely prevent heat transfer from the engine into the box. Like, you can make a 9-second pass on this car and get out and lick the manifold if you want. It's just not hot. And that makes it really good when you get to the final rounds, because in shootout racing, you got to keep the power on the car, and we're not spending a bunch of time trying to cool it off because it just doesn't get hot. Then inside there, after you put all that together, you end up with a set of 8 individual trumpets, and then they're enclosed in a 1,000 cubic inch air box and fed with right now they're fed with a single 105 millimeter throttle. Uses 83 pound per hour injectors. And the manifold welding was done by Chris at Unobtainium. The car uses Edelbrock 7721 heads, And actually, if you want to get a look at this, Cam, you'll see this is the kind of thing I was talking about. If you look on here, I don't know if you can get that on there. You can see on the front here, you can see where it says Edo Brock. And it says Victor. These are the 7721 Victors. They have total engine airflows, 395 port job on them, 2-inch primary exhaust, 3.5-inch collector. And then another thing, I don't know if we're going to be able to see it on this car, but let me grab my flashlight real quick. I think. Where the hell did I put the flashlight? Here. When it comes to trying to figure out whether a car has like an aftermarket block or a production block, I think maybe you can see that. You see the outline of the cylinders on the block there come down below the level of the cylinder head. I don't know if we're getting this or not. Let's see if I can just stick the flashlight in here and put my finger on it. It can be tough to see when you're not right there. You look in behind that strap. Anyway, the outline of the cylinders protrudes below the line described by the lower edge of the heads. When it's like that, you know you got an aftermarket block. Like this is a Dart Iron Eagle, a real Iron Eagle. Dart Sportsmen are the same.
Just a little bit right there, that circular surface.
That's right. Now, if it's a production block, the edge of the block will be flush with the edge of the cylinder heads. So, you know, if you're getting yourself into a grudge race, for instance, and you got your usual, the usual nonsense guys say, oh yeah, my car's pretty stock. Take a look for that, because if they've got a serious block in there, it can support serious power. And if they have a production block, then there's going to be a limit on how far it can be pushed, for sure. All right. Let's see if there's any questions. Is my shop in California? No, my shop is in Calgary, Alberta, which is in Canada. So we're a long way from California, for sure. And do I know any good Coyote engine builders? I'm sure this is a little bit of a loaded question, actually, but no, I'm not sure that I really do know any great Coyote engine builders. What do you think? Here, let's get you mic'd back up, Cam. Who would you trust to build a Coyote engine?
There's a couple companies I'm trying to remember.
What about Livernois?
Yeah, that's about the only one that comes to mind for me. But of course, I've got a push rod motor in my car, so I don't have much of an opinion.
Yeah, I mean, well, I have a couple Coyote cars for sure, but I've never had a Coyote from Livernois come through the shop, but I have had lots of modulars from those guys, and they've generally been very good. So that might be a place you could start looking for a Coyote engine, or Ford Racing maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
my old friend Kent Seymour is on here. I don't know if you know Kent, but he's a road racer who was based here in Alberta for years and has moved to the great state of New York. And He has a Calypso Coupe, pretty wild little car with
Nice.
a stroker 351 in it. He did pretty good with the car. In fact, one year we went out to Mega Ford weekend together, and I won the quick street shootout, and he won the like True Street, the like V8 street tire shootout. And all these guys were, you know, big stuff about their local dude or whatever. And I think that car has with 100% road race setup, so really stiff suspension, really terrible setup for the drag strip, on some 7 or 8 year old Kumo Exta Supra 712s. He went, I don't know, maybe Kent will remember better than me, but he went like 1120 or something like that. And the sort of hometown guy went 1163, he says he went. The hometown guy went like 14 flat or something like that. And then, you know, it's the same old deal when it comes to streetcar shootout. After racing streetcar shootout a long time, I've come to the conclusion that the real definition of streetcar is, mine's a streetcar, and if yours is faster, it isn't. And, you know, they gave him a hard time about the car's not streetable and all this stuff. I can tell you, I personally drove that car through rush hour traffic in Calgary. It's probably more streetable than most of these guys who show up on a Friday night out at that track in BC, because it's built for road race. So it has incredible cooling and incredible brakes and all of this stuff on it. Yeah, it doesn't have a radio. Oh, well. Yeah, he says 1163 at 124. I bet somewhere or other I have that on video. I bet I got video of that. Maybe that's a good candidate to go through my archive and try and remaster that those runs. I know it did fantastic, and yeah, it was way ahead of the stuff they had out there, for sure.
I think there's even a clip on your channel of the car that I bought running a 10.5 at Mission.
Yeah, right. It had a nitrous setup in those days, for sure. I know there was one year that car ran there, and there was a staging duel between the guy who had the car at the time and and another guy, and I think that staging duel against that turbo car scrubbed. It was an incredible amount of time it scrubbed off the turbo car, like 8/10 or something like that. But sometimes you outsmart yourself in a staging duel, and he messed around, and it had an automatic in it, I think, and he never pulled it back into first after the burnout. So when he hit it, it was in second, and I mean, it didn't blow the car up or anything, but it just didn't run good. But the staging duel scrubbed like, yeah, it was like 8/10 or something ridiculous like that off of this turbo car. So when I was forced with this NA car to run against turbo guys, I always felt like I had like a 99% chance of gaining a start line advantage, even without playing games. Actually, I ran that same guy at a shootout in Medicine Hat one year, an invitational shootout in Medicine Hat. And I gave him a hard time the night before about how I was going to burn him down and all this stuff. If I came up against him in eliminations, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I got enough fuel to idle for 30 minutes, and I'll never go in first," and all this stuff. And anyway, I discussed it. My wife and I discussed our strategy the night before, and I said, "You know what? I'm just going to run it straight, because you can screw yourself up. Like, you just got to run your own race." And so anyway, we pulled up. I got the guy in eliminations. We pulled up, and much to my surprise, he staged up first. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. I mean, this guy said he would idle for 30 minutes or whatever, never go in first. I thought about it just briefly. I thought maybe I should burn him down, but I didn't. I gave him a straight race because I'd never hear the end of it if I burned him down, and I killed him anyway. So, and he was supposed to have had a 172 wheel horsepower advantage on the day. That car was built by Justin Burcham, the NMRA champion. So
Then you get full credibility for the win, and you don't have people making excuses after.
Oh no, he was making excuses the instant we pulled back into the pits, and this is the thing about shootout street car racing. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how streety your car really is. If your car's quicker than somebody else's, they will say that it's not a street car. And I mean, I don't know. We tried everything with this car. It's a full weight car. It has power windows and locks. I mean, it weighs 3160 for crying out loud. That's like a production coupe. And every time I took weight out for save weight, I end up adding it back in with safety or strengthen up or whatever. And it didn't matter what I did. If we beat guys, they just said it's not a street car. So anyway, we've been on here for 75 minutes. The questions have kind of died down a little bit, I'd say. So maybe we'll call her a night. I think we had fairly successful first live. Thanks very much for coming in and helping me with it, Cam.
Of course.
And you know, if there's interest in the future, we'll hold another one. Okay. Let's shut her down. Good night, guys.